We're so excited to chat with Gina DeVee. She is the founder of Divine Living, a global lifestyle brand to empower women. She is also an accomplished speaker, a transformational coach, a podcast host, and the author of our new favorite book, The Audacity to Be Queen. She believes that within every woman lives a queen and that the world needs us to own our power and raise our standards and contribute our talents like never before. The Audacity to Be Queen brings together over 20 years worth of experience in transforming women's lives through the deep spiritual and feminine wisdom to release all forms of self-doubt so you can discover the best version of you. Please welcome Gina.
What's up, beauty?
Hello. Hi.
Hello. Oh, so good. So looking forward to our time together.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Alex.
I'm Tina.
Nice to meet you both.
Gina, thank you so much for being here. We both just finished your book, The Audacity to Be Queen. We cannot wait to talk to you.
Oh my goodness. I'm so excited and honored. Thanks for having me.
Totally fangirling. Like, read your book. We follow you on Instagram. We're so beyond excited to have you here.
Your work encompasses so many things. So much history, so much psychology, lots of mindset practices. You do a wide range of things. So if we're speaking to someone who's never heard of you before, how do you describe what you do in your own words?
I'm really, really committed to women being their best selves and living their best lives. And I think that whatever angle they're more inclined towards, some take more of the spiritual route, some take more of the entrepreneurial. Some of us like to have it all, and we do both, and lifestyle and travel and all the things. So I think that ultimately the spiritual connection is where everything stems from. So helping women be the best queens that they are meant to be.
In writing your book and in studying everything that you've studied and learned, what were some of the specific parts of history? I know history plays a big part in your work, and psychology that you had to study in order to fulfill this work.
Yes. So I do have a master's degree in clinical psychology. For anyone who doesn't know, I started out as a broke, struggling, in-debt psychotherapist that had a big dream to help other people with their lives. I wrote my master's thesis on living life unlimitedly. So I've always had that viewpoint. I just didn't always know how to put it into practice. And so it was a combination of my kind of obsession with human potential and a human's ability to transform any area of their life, from the psychotherapy aspect to I grew up in a Christian and a spiritual environment where I read the Bible a lot. So there's a lot of history that comes from that. And for anyone wondering about the audacity to be queen, it's not just a meme. It is actually based on the true and ancient story of Queen Esther of Persia. Jews know it from Purim, Christians know it from the Bible. For everyone else, it's like the most epic Cinderella story. When I used to read the story literally, like it was just about someone else. And then when I started to read it more symbolically and metaphysically, I realized Esther's story is the heroine's journey. It's the story within us all. And so for anyone who doesn't know it, I'll share briefly. Esther was a Jewish orphan girl that got exiled out of Israel, sent to Persia, where she was treated like a second-class citizen. She was living with her only living relative named Mordecai. During this time, the king was looking for a new queen, took all the young maidens of the land and put them in the palace harem to prepare them with beauty treatments and special foods to be presented to the king. When it came Esther's turn to go, she hid her true identity, didn't tell him who she was. He ends up picking a Jewish orphan girl to be the queen of Persia. And right after that, there's a law issued to kill all the Jews in the land. So Esther has to, for such a time as this, go and expose who she really is on behalf of her own life, on behalf of her people's life. So she does, and the king grants her wish, and she becomes the heroine of all time. The reason why this is so relevant anciently and has been in my life for 20 years or longer and is so relevant today, because we are all the unlikely candidate. We are all the ordinary woman. We are all, though, for such a time as this, meant for something so much greater. And only from the position of queen can we really fulfill our calling. So we have to get out of insecurity, codependency, lack, self-doubt, and be the queen that we are for our own sake and for the sake of our people.
So something that really holds us back that you talk about in your book is ancestral trauma. Women have historically not been treated so great. We've been told to shut up. You give an example of, in the older days, if your woman was in her tribe and got ostracized from her tribe, she might likely die. So what are the ways that some of the history affects us today?
When we're afraid to speak up, be ourselves, shine our light, fear of being too fabulous. There's so much that's just entrenched in the culture, and it's breaking up. It's breaking up a lot, and it's breaking up beautifully, but it's not breaking up enough. We are a very privileged section of society to be here on this podcast talking about the things that we are. When so many people are like deeply struggling financially, working multiple jobs in unsafe environments at home, don't have access to food and shelter, let alone education and the other things. And so when we really get how women's oppression holds the entire culture back, when feminine values are at the forefront, the children are taken care of, the community is taken care of, the education is in place, it's safe to exist. And so we have been sold a lot of lies that we need to stop buying, that we need someone else's permission, that it's not okay to make that much money, that something's going to take a long time to get off the ground, or that we just want to do life the way we want to do it. And so it's a very exciting time to be a woman, because we are standing on the shoulders of the women who came before us, for sure. And we're continuing to break that up every single hour of every single day.
What I'm remembering from the book, the section on conditioning, how we as women have been conditioned to believe certain things that just aren't true. And I think you were naming a few of those, but for those who haven't read the book yet, can you talk to us about what is conditioning and what are some of those examples of things that we are told that just aren't true?
And it can be anything. It can be like it's not okay for you to make more money than your parents. It's not okay. You can be conditioned to, it's not safe to be visible in the world. You can be conditioned that it's okay for someone else to live in their dream home, but not you. It's okay for someone else to fly private, but not you. Hypothetically, it's okay for someone else to get the degree, be on television, get married, not get married, have kids, not have kids. I think it just depends on so much what we grew up in and what we were programmed to be. What of that programming was actually our truth and in alignment? Most of the programming isn't all bad, but also really having great discernment about, well, I'll take this, but not that. And really consciously living by our own beliefs and our own values, and giving ourselves permission unapologetically to be who we are.
Something I love about your book is you were so honest about your own programming. You were not coming from a place of, I'm this enlightened person, I know better than you. No, it was very much, I have been you. I have been in the place you are right now. I have not always felt financially free. I have not always had my dream job. You mentioned moments of, you're Sicilian, like seeing red, all of that. Like I very much relate to, or you can just get so mad. So can you talk a little bit about the mindset from whence you came before you started doing this work, kind of where you started?
I grew up in an environment where I had a lot of privilege and a lot of great things. My parents were school teachers, so we weren't rich, we weren't poor. We lived in the suburbs of Detroit, went to church on Sundays and played piano. And, there are also dynamics that set me up for being highly codependent. The church that I grew up in, as thankful as I am that I, from a very young age, had a very close relationship with God and knew about miracles and scripture and all of that, it also taught me not to think for myself. And so it was just kind of like, you just need to believe us and you just need to follow these rules. And like, this is right and this is wrong according to them. And I do write about this in the book, that people either take on a set of compliance views, like you're just compliant to everything. And that was me. I was the good girl. I didn't drink. I didn't party. I followed all the rules. And then other people will take a defiant route, which I always idolized. However, once I really understood the psychology, neither person is free. Compliant people are codependent and so are defiant people. And it's not until we are in actual alliance with our truth that we are actually free. So if you're like off doing drugs because you're being rebellious of your, Christian upbringing or whatever the thing is, that's not freedom. That's just rebellion. Codependency, I think, was one of my biggest ones. Like, I was so afraid to be myself. Public approval is nice, like for healthy people. I needed it to survive. Like, I couldn't function if I wasn't being liked or approved of or accepted. And that went with family, that went with friends, that went with guys, that went with clients, team member, like it was pervasive in every single area. So unhooking that stuff, my lack of self-worth and brokenness around wealth consciousness. I mean, as you teach what you want to learn,
yeah.
There was a lot to work through there, girlfriend. And, I'm glad it was my destiny. It was part of my path to be entrenched in psychology and spirituality and human potential, and always loving the finer things in life and trying to figure out how to merge, it sounds ridiculous today, but, Grandma Gina's rocking chair stories, back in circa 2004, like, we weren't sure if it was okay to be spiritual and wealthy, it was this, like, you were in two different camps then. So it's my life has really been a reclaiming of lots of brokenness, lots of imperfections, lots of gifts, lots of blessings, and now bringing it into very conscious choice of who do I desire to be today. I think one of my biggest mistakes from the codependent era was what I call the unlived life. I regret so much more of what I didn't do than the stuff that I did that didn't work out or didn't work out the way I wanted it to. And so that's a lot of what I share in the book to help other people get to their truth quicker than I did.
That's something I really love in the book is you're reading it and you're telling us a story and I'm going, oh, I know how this is going to play out. I know that this is going to work out. And then you're like, oh no, that something horrible happened. And I was broke. I had $100 in my bank account and I'm like, well, how's she going to get out of this one? How's she going to get out of this? I really resonate with sort of the different characters that you place in the book. There's the martyr, there is the princess, and I was like, oh my God, yes, I see myself in this and this and this. And something that Alex and I both have talked about is the Little Miss Perfect syndrome. Ooh. And I think that is so common for a lot of women, especially of our generation. And can you tell us a little bit about what the Little Miss Perfect syndrome is and how perfectionism is keeping us small?
I remember I was at an event in Paris one time and I walked out on stage and I was like, Little Miss Perfect needs to die. And I was kidding around. I thought it was funny. And you should, the audience was like, it struck that much to the heart of women of all ages and all cultures. And it's like this thing, that women hold on to, thinking that this is their security, that if I'm just perfect enough, if I look perfect, if I have the perfect job, the perfect family, the perfect body, make the perfect amount of money, make the perfect post, have the perfect following, then it's this thing, but it's fake. Number one, it holds us back. It doesn't even exist. I love one of my mentors, Evan Pagan, always said perfectionism is for poor people. It's just thinking that long about the post you're going to make, or if you said the right thing at dinner last night, you are not going to be a success. And so I understand where it comes from, that little girls, actual little girls, when they're in an unsafe environment, physically, psychologically, emotionally, they tell themselves that if they're just good enough, then ... then maybe mommy and daddy won't get divorced, or maybe mommy's depression will go away, or daddy's drinking won't be there, or whatever, grandpa's this or that, whatever the story is that she's made up. So in undeveloped little girl psychology, there's this fantasy that if I'm good enough, I'll be loved, I'll be safe, everybody I love will be okay. And we create these sacred contracts, and they're usually before the age of 7 or 8, that like, we've made this contract that when I'm perfect, everyone's going to be okay. And what happens is they're unconscious. So then we just keep going through life with, if I'm perfect, everything's going to be okay. And we put this undue pressure on ourselves, and we put this undue responsibility on ourselves, and we like become these little adults that are taking on the weight of the world and taking on the responsibility of other people's happiness or joy or ability to stay on the planet. Sometimes, you know, there's a lot of mental health issues that go on for people that these little girls take on. And that's what I was looking to help us wake up to, is that if we wrote that sacred contract, that we get to rewrite the contract now, that we don't have to be perfect to be safe, and we're not in charge of anybody's happiness or well-being, and we get to drop that.
And something you say that I find so freeing and just so full of hope is you say everything is healable. So we all have trauma. It could be, you know, small, it all different, but you believe that everything is healable. Why
1000%.
do you think that?
I don't believe in magic pills and in flipping the switch. There's
No.
a process to growth and healing for sure. We know that if the arm is broken, and if it is healed properly, it's actually stronger in the place where it was broken than the other arm that was never broken. And if that's the same physically, why would it not be the same emotionally and spiritually and holistically? And I also know it to be true in my own life, the areas that I've healed, like you can't hook me or trip me up. There's others that I'm still hooked or tripped up on. And then there's others that I'm less likely to be hooked or tripped up on, but I'm still in process with it. But there's absolutely no, I mean, like, I'm just going to use the Bible because I know it better, but the Quran or any other spiritual text, like, where does it say, like, you can heal 75%? You know, you're going to be 60% okay. Like, we're going to kind of get you through this dark night of the soul. Like, it's like, you know, and the truth will set you free. And it's like, all things are possible with God. Well, if all things are possible, then why wouldn't all healing be possible? It's like, no, like, anything is possible.
I really like what you said. And I think that's really going to help people, of the analogy of the arm, of, you know, when we get an injury sometimes, or sometimes if we're sick or whatever, we can come back stronger. So let's apply that to our mental health and our spiritual health as well. I love that analogy for people, especially when it comes to therapy and everything, of like, well, we go to the gym to make our bodies stronger. So why wouldn't we also take care of our brains and our hearts and our minds?
Mm-hmm. And look at the areas that I was more broken in are the areas that I'm stronger in. You can't sway me, right? The areas that I haven't been broken in, I don't know it as well, right? You know, like, I've been broken financially. My friends who are trust fund babies, good luck. Like,
oh my God.
I'd rather be me any day of the week and twice on Sunday, because if I lost all my money today, at least I know how to remake it. Like, you know, like, that's not their superpower, but it sure is mine. You know,
that makes so much sense.
As a therapist, I understand and can help significantly people with addiction issues. But if I was looking to get off of crack, would I want to go to someone who studied it and worked with people who have gotten sober, or someone who had a needle hanging out of their arm? Like, let's just be real about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that person that's sober, they're stronger than me in that area. Like,
yeah,
right.
That just makes so much sense. So we're certain in everything is healable. We're certain in the universe has a plan. We're certain all these things. Okay, but you still have to be proactive and active in your pursuit of your life, right? And there's a thing of, like, you talk about hope addiction. Speaking of addictions, hope addiction and getting stuck in that. So can you talk about the difference between hope addiction and being certain in the universe?
Yeah, hope addiction is a version of doing the same thing and hoping for a different result. You know, it's staying in the same dating relationship, or it's staying in the same job at the same frequency and thinking that there's going to be a breakthrough. I'll share this vulnerably and transparently. So I've been a successful business coach for the past 15 years. And I thought I'd be like Bob Proctor doing this until I'm like 248 years old. Like I like never thought I'd do anything else. If you know who Bob Proctor is, that is actually funny. But anyways, never thought about doing anything else. I was always so lit up about empowering women through financial success. So 2020 hits, and all like my seminars and my stuff around the world. I mean, I hosted like high-end masterminds and dinners in front of the pyramids, and masterminds on yachts and Mykonos, and like private homes of Michelin-starred restaurant chefs cooked for my clients. Like I like did lifestyle and travel well. So then we can't travel. So I'm like, all right, so we'll switch to digital, which was actually also great for me because all of my hotel and yacht and pyramid bills went down the drain and the profits went up because everything was digital. So I'm like, well, this is great. And then in 2021, I was doing my January New You launch, and it was like, I wasn't into it. I was working harder than ever. The numbers were lower than ever. I was getting irritated with, God bless them, clients asking their business coach questions about who their ideal client should be. There is nothing, you should be able to ask your business coach that without irritation. And I was like, ah, like it was like such a dumbass question. Like I wasn't into it, right? So I'm like in this ego war with myself, right? Like looking at my friends' launches, watching them, like their numbers are going up. Everything they touch turns to gold, and mine are like going down. So I'm getting like angry and resentful at people not signing up for the business coaching class that I didn't want to teach. Okay. And then wondering why it's not a love fest and why like everything isn't. So hope addiction and a combination of the conditioning of fake it till you make it, take the bull by the horns, feel the fear and do it, like just keep going. You know, entrepreneurship is only for the strong, work 20 hours a day, hustle, grind, blah, blah, blah. So I cried every day of January 2021. I sobbed every day of February 2021, my poor husband. And I was just like, I felt irrelevant, nothing I was doing working, but I was in hope addictions. It's like, well, the spring launch, like the next, like just keep pushing forward. And my dad went unexpectedly into the hospital in March of 2021. This is so cliche, but it happens to be true. Here, my like elementary school teacher of 33 years, Bob, the guy who took me to piano lessons and taught me how to ride a bike and took me sledding, is like in this hospital bed. I wasn't sure if he was going to come out alive. Like my life flashed before my eyes, his life flashed before my eyes, and nothing else mattered. And I surrendered. I was like, fine, God, like, and surrender doesn't mean to give up. It means to give over. And I'm like, I was holding on so tight to my career and the way I made money and my identity and all the known stuff. And I said, use me, whatever you got planned. Like I thought my ideas were the best ideas, but whatever you have planned, show me. For the past year now, I've been on this journey of surrender. I don't know how it's like, so it actually, there's like been space. I haven't been hustling. The only thing I've crushed is a tomato. Like I like got into cooking and I like, my husband and I would go on like motorcycle trips and road trips, and I went on girlfriend trips, and I just like all the stuff that didn't make sense. Like, Gina, you kind of have no career right now. You should be figuring out your life. Like, don't mind me. I'm in Charleston eating oysters, you know, like, it's like, Gina, you should be, I don't know, making money. Catch you later. I'm in the Hamptons. I was just like, just in flow. Like, I was just saying, I wasn't like on a binge fest. I was just doing what felt good. I did a couple collaborations with a girlfriend, like that felt good. And we did a few small events. And I just let things continue to become. And I would say I had a meltdown, because that usually happens before a breakthrough, right? I was just like, I'm tired not knowing what I'm doing with my life. Like, there's nothing worse for me than not feeling divinely guided. I get in a very bad mood when like the amount of money I want coming in doesn't come in. But the only thing worse than that is like not feeling spiritually connected. And I was just crying, and I was like, I know better than this. I know that the divine guidance is here. And like everyone was like, you should do this launch and you should do that launch. And I told my husband I was going to go to upstate New York. I've never been to Rhinebeck before. I booked myself this little Airbnb and I booked that for a week. And a girlfriend was having a birthday in the city. And I said, I'm taking myself on a solo trip. And I was so, I had my team sent like poster board and markers and like post-its. Like I was going to like that Airbnb was going to figure my effing life out, like enough of the not knowing. And from the minute I landed, everything was in flow. Like all this stuff started to come together. Like I wasn't even trying to figure my life out until I got to Rhinebeck and I'm driving up and like the downloads are coming in. And so all I have to say is I'm not a fan of hustle and massive action. I am a fan of being divinely inspired so that you take inspired action. And when you come from this place of really letting spirit lead, like that you're not like, well, I got to do something with my life. So why don't I send out this resume or why don't I like make that phone call? Like I have been relentless in letting it come to me because I've been like, really, God, how are you? Because I am not moving until I know it's you, because all the stuff I tried to do on my own didn't work. And I was like, but I'm just not going to do anything. And that was the best thing that worked. I mean, literally like a girlfriend was supposed to call me. We were supposed to have plans. I was like, nope. As I'm driving into Hudson to get my little specialty groceries, there she goes, calls. We like meet up for lunch that day. I wasn't wearing something cute. I wanted to look cute for lunch. I looked up, there's a store called Manifest. It had a cute little dress in the window, like went and bought it, didn't have mascara. Across the street was like a mascara thing. Like everything has started to come into flow, including this next chapter of my life of like what I'm actually meant to do. So all this to say, I want women everywhere of all ages to know you don't have to figure it out on your own, that there is a level of spiritual guidance. If you need training on hearing that level of queen voice within or intuition within, then get it, but it is there and is way more miraculous than the grind.
I'm really glad you cleared up action and the inspired action, because I think that this is a really common area that people get tripped up with, okay, so the universe is taking care of it, so I'm just gonna chill. And like, yes, like do what you do, fill yourself up, fill up your own cup, like but also it doesn't mean do absolutely nothing. It means like, don't do the busy work, do the inspired action. I do feel like that's a kind of can be a muddy area sometimes.
It's highly intentional. So there's a high level of activation. You know, I told you I had poster boards sent and markers and the whole thing. Like I was meditating, journaling, I mean, I did everything but a rain dance to call in like what I was supposed to do with my life, you know, like, so there is a very fierce active element. It's not numbing out. It's not checking out. It's really connecting with the divine.
Another thing I would love for you to clear up with this work is, say you want something so bad, a job, an amount of money, a baby, a relationship, whatever. How do you have that intention, trust it's going to happen, but also not strangle the shit out of it so that you're like actually pushing it away? Hold the intention, want it, but also let it go. What is your approach to that?
Beautiful question. You have to become unavailable for it to not occur, meaning you have to move past wanting or wishing or hoping that it'll happen, creating such a level of must that it must happen. And you don't get to pick when, and you don't get to pick how. And if there's a who involved, you don't get to pick who. And when I can feel the difference, I did it with my soulmate. I was like, oh my gosh, these guys are dating. Like, I was like, I'm ready for my soulmate. I'm ready for this. Like, I was in that wanting energy, even though I thought it was a must. I remember where I was standing and what I was wearing when I said to the universe, I will never go on another date again. I'm only available for my soulmate. And 10 days later, I was on a date with Glenn.
What?
Yep. True story.
Oh my, okay, because everyone that listens to this podcast knows that I am on my own dating journey, and I'm like, I'm this close to doing my own personal rain dance for my soulmate. like we are ready for seances and whatever. It's I am ready, and I'm like reading this book, going, okay, how do I just become available for this?
Yes, so you need to become if this is true for you, because I will say, thank God, when I thought I was ready, if you can only attract your vibrational match, thank God I wasn't sent my vibrational match when I thought I was ready. When I became ready, Glenn appeared in my life.
I mean, honestly, as the person on the other side of this is all true. My husband and I talk about all the time. I'm like, if I met you at 25, thank God I didn't. I was not ready for like the kind, fully formed person until I met you. And also the thing I always tell Tina is like, my intro to this work was Gabby Bernstein. And I started like meditating and I literally wrote down a list of everything that I wanted in a person. And I was like, this is it. And yeah, my husband popped up. So it's wild.
And all of the different pieces, like I moved to California in 2004 to write my book because I was ready to write my book. My book came out March 3rd, 2020, people. So, there's that. I thought I was so ready for like this scaled number of business coaching clients. When I'll tell you one of the things I got in Rhinebeck when the curtain got pulled away so I could get to my truth for this chapter of my life is I'm meant to teach this queen thing. Last to know, like it didn't dawn on me on going front burner with it. Like I'm a business coach, right? Like that's how I make my money. The book is cool and it has my concepts I talk about in seminars. And like the last podcast I was on, she was like, you know that you found your calling, right? I'm like, well, as of 2 weeks ago, yeah. I was like, you mean I can just talk about queen shit all the time? And like, this is what people want from me? And they're like, people are kind of like, yeah, actually. Like
people are clamoring for it. Something else that we are obsessed with is how you speak about money in this book and you take the shame out. And then also I learned, so I was in this really weird, rough spot in my life. I found Jen Sincero. I found Gabby Bernstein. They both got me out of it. And Jen Sincero's book, You're a Badass at Making Money, totally started changing how I thought about money. Tina and I went to musical theater school. Our early 20s were very much romanticizing the starving artist thing. And it really rocked my world of like, if I'm not thriving, how is that helping anybody? So can you talk about your views, how you talk to women about money and how you take the shame, like no shame and wanting to make money and having money?
It's called being honest. I mean, I could really sum it up like that. I was like, I remember when Jen was over at my house and
you coach. I don't know if I said that, but that's what I meant to say. Did I say that? You coach this author. It's so amazing.
Yeah. She was like, I don't really care about first class tickets like you do. And I was like, really? And she's like, yeah, it doesn't matter to me. This is before she wrote the badass books, I'll say. And and I was like, okay. And so when the flight attendant comes back to 29D and is like, hey, you got a free first class upgrade. No thanks, said no one ever. Like, right? Right. Money doesn't buy happiness. It's all it buys, people. Like it doesn't buy all happiness, but the only thing money can do is buy happiness. Like, what do you mean it doesn't buy it? It's all it does. Like, let's just be honest with yourself. Like now everyone has different value systems, right? Like some people's value system, if they had a bunch of money, they would bank it and spend more time with their kids. And that's their idea of bliss. And other people would go buy 17 homes and someone else, I don't know, would build a rocket ship or do whatever people do. Like, it's not my place to judge, but the fact that money is energy and we all need this kind of energy for our own personal expression. And also we need different amounts of it too. She who makes the most money to me does not win. It's about freedom. And for all of us to have the amount of money that would have us living our most authentic lives. I'll share something else. Even like recently, so I'm looking at, I'm like, should I go spend like July in New York and I'll look at sublets. And so, I should just be reasonable. It's just a month. It's like, doesn't matter. Right. And so I'm looking at a particular price range and I was like, oh, Florida never looked so good. And it's just like streety. I'm like going through and I was like, because I was at about half the price point of what was actually natural to me. So it's like that conditioning of, you shouldn't spend that much. It's just a summer sublet. It's not a big deal. You're going to go out all the time. You're never going to be there. You're wasting the money. Like, no, I will have a bathtub and a shower and a certain amount of square footage. Now it's back to what's too small and what's too big and what's just right. So everyone needs to decide that for themselves.
And you talk about too, you can be the one, the splurger, or, and you can be responsible, but you don't have to be the Little Miss Perfect. You don't have to be, you can still live your life. And I just love how you talk about money in that way. In the money shaming, you say money shaming is the new witch burning. Can you tell our listeners what that means?
Whatever, like, I have my life together, Sally, with her spreadsheets and like saving her whatever money for a down payment for a house, and like, oh, you're going off to Saint-Tropez again? Well, you're probably going to get COVID 4 times, and flights are really expensive right now, and it's not like, a good use of money. It was like, clearly you haven't been to Saint-Tropez, or you haven't been there with me, because all of that would be worth it. So many people, women in particular, what it really comes down to is a lack of self-permission. And when we see another woman giving herself permission, even if she's doing it perhaps imperfectly, maybe she's taking a fashion risk, maybe she's taking a financial risk, maybe she's not getting it quite right, but she's given herself permission to go there somewhere. Right. And we're so quick to arch the eyebrow, and we're so quick to be like, can you believe, and if we would have more compassion for the risk takers, and the sharp and flat notes that get played along the way of developing mastery. I don't even think at this point that stories around sex are more shameful than the stories around money. Like, I think there's been like such a liberation there, but like, financial, it's still taboo. Like, like, she ordered the caviar on her lobster. Like, what is she like? Who does she think she is? It's like, it's a woman who likes caviar. Like, it just goes back to, what would we do if we weren't letting ourselves be limited by a lack of money? What would we order? Where would we live? How would we spend our time? Where would we get our hair done? When I get in that place, if I like really know that I might be tempted to be making a decision based around money and I don't want it to be financially based, I'll say, and what would my choice be if there was $100 million in the bank? It's like it used to be 10 million, but then it kind of grew into that a little bit. So I'm like, what would I do if $100 million in the bank? What would I do? Who would I be? What decision would I make? What would actually be important to me? What's my value system? Where do I want to spend more on? Where do I want to spend less on?
Exactly. It's such a good exercise. And also in that vein, you talk about how important it is to prioritize pleasure, and how only in doing that can we really unblock and just like really open ourselves up to receive. So can you talk about why that's so important, and like real pleasure? And I love how you make the distinctions of like something that's fun, not binge drinking all night so you feel like shit the next day. Like, there's a lot. I love how you make the distinctions.
It's important.
Yeah. Yeah.
I could hear you all as I was typing it. I was like, doesn't mean day drinking 3 days in a row, people. Yes, real pleasure. We know enough to know that every thought has a vibration. Every feeling has a vibration. Every element has a vibration. And so when we're stressed, when we're frustrated, when we're angry, when we're resentful, when we're bored, these are lower level vibrations. When you're in true joy, bliss, pleasure, hanging out with your best friend at Soho House for brunch, I don't know, whatever your thing is, going for a jog in Central Park, like whatever like people do, what it has them just feeling like so alive, in the bubble bath, whatever, you're at a really high vibration. So then you're either going to attract thoughts, ideas, synchronicities at a high vibration, or you're going to attract low vibrational thoughts, people, ideas, etc. And so this is why I teach so much of my queen work. Get out from behind the computer. Like my work is so counterintuitive because it's the ways of the feminine, right? The feminine is circular, the masculine is logical and linear. And so it's like when I was in Rhinebeck like making pasta every night of the week. Like I was in such bliss. Of course, all these like mega amazing ideas were going to come in. And when I'm behind my computer, what am I going to write on the sales page? And what should the subject line be? And like, I don't want it, whatever.
It's draining. Yeah.
Attract more of like a not exciting life. And so that's why we've got to take radical responsibility. We are not victims. And if you're feeling blah, if you're feeling bored, if you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling depressed, handle yourself, meaning be there for yourself. Listen to yourself. If you listen to yourself, you're going to hear like, I'm bored. I'm sad. I am getting the life sucked out of me with this task. And if you're really there for yourself, create a different reality around it.
We could talk to you seriously all damn day about, I want to go through like every chapter and just praise, like, thank you. Yes. Can't relate. Like just 10 out of 10. And it was one of those things when I closed the book, I was like, oh my God, I'm so sad. But I'm not that sad because there are other things. You have the companion workbook that goes with the book, and the Q Club, and you have an app. Can you tell us about all three of those things?
Okay, so yes, for everyone that wants the book, you go to divineliving.com/book. You can get audio, Kindle, hardcover, whatever. The free companion course to the book, divineliving.com/Audacity. You don't have to buy the book to get that, but I do recommend that you do. Don't be cheap with yourselves, but that's for free for anyone. If you are wanting like Gina DeVee on demand, that is actually what my app in the Q Club is. So I have this really gorgeous app. You can go to divineliving.com/app, a 2-week free trial. So you can totally try it out for free. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Gina downloads in there, and I do a live call every month. And lastly, I am coming out with a brand new opportunity. It's called Own Your Throne, and it is a 10-week series to becoming the queen of your life in a very in-depth way, going through the entire Esther story and the whole heroine's journey. And so if you get on my list at divineliving.com/Audacity, you'll be on the list and you'll hear all about that. And then there's the Divine Living podcast.
Okay, before we let you go for real, we have a few fun questions that we ask everyone. So just say the first thing that comes to your mind. First, we know you love a vacation. So if you have to pick one favorite vacation spot, where is it?
Okay. Well, for sure. You have to go to Piemonte during white truffle season. So that's the north of Italy. It's between Milan and Monaco. I go every October for the month, white truffle season. So that's a non-negotiable in my life at this point. I do love a St. Bart situation as well.
Who are 2 designers that are in your closet right now?
Well, I'll do one that I'm wearing. She's actually New York City based, and I have this like in every color. So does Dakota Johnson. Skin Worldwide.
What is your current fave nighttime moisturizer situation?
Honey, you're just like feeding candy to a baby right now. So glad you asked. Well, I did just become the new brand ambassador for Celatois, and this is legit so incredibly amazing. It's a 4-part system. Real quick, the cleanser smells like seaweed in the best way. It's like kelp, ocean, amazing. This serum and this like stuff is so good. Like you won't stop touching your face, legit. And then there's a little eye wand and then the face cream.
So who's a woman that you're following on Instagram or you're listening to their podcast, or someone currently a woman that's inspiring you?
Iman. So Iman is my new friend. You guys know Iman? She just came out with a book called The Glass Ledge. She's former Miss New York. She's so beautiful. My friend Ashley Stahl, who is also so super inspiring, introduced me to her, and that's whose birthday party I was at. And Iman was there. So you definitely should have Iman on your podcast.
Gina, thank you so much for spending an hour with us. We are so grateful. We're so grateful to be connected with you. We've been so excited. Everyone, I can't even tell you how this book, I feel like I've underlined sections. I'm just going to keep coming back to it. And like I said, I always keep coming back to the podcast. So we're going to link all of her info. Just thank you.
Oh my gosh, it was such a blast. I'll happily come back anytime. Thank you so much for having me, and to be continued for sure.